Shalom. All praise to Yahweh Shemi Al-Shah. Double honor to the apostles GMS and Shalom to the elect. My name is Amna Wa'ala, and to my left is
Hello.
And last week we did a show. We're going into the book of Maccabees. We're primarily going to stick to the first 10 verses. And if you watched the last show, you'll see at the very end the laptop had died. So what we're going to do is we're going to continue on where we left off from the previous show on that particular article. Make sure on that website you can read that. But
right.
You can read it, not yet. You can read the title, the website title. You know what I'm saying? And then from there, after we read that, we're gonna read Maccabees 1-on-1. Then we're gonna continue on. So without further ado.
All right. This is ancient history encyclopedia. This is the Battle of Gaugamela. Salakia. Now I'm gonna continue from where we left off.
It's only a few sentences left, so we don't really got to get in that. We're just gonna read it.
All right. Just like at Issus, Darius realized that victory was hopeless and fled. Plutarch, in his Life of Alexander, spoke of Darius' fight.
Yep.
Darius, now seeing all was lost, and those who were placed in front of him were broken and beat back upon him, that he could not turn or disengage his chariot without great difficulty. The wheels began clogged and entangled among the dead bodies. It says the wheels being clogged and entangled among the dead bodies.
So his wheels got tangled up.
That's how much his men was falling.
That's how much his men was falling. His wheels got tangled up in all of them dead bodies. Read on.
It says, and entangled among the dead bodies, was glad to be quit his chariot and his arm.
Mm-hmm.
And mountain it said upon a mare that had been taken. It's like, let me read that again.
Go ahead.
It says
take your time.
And his chariot without great difficulty, the wheels being clogged and entangled among the dead bodies, was glad to be quit his chariot and his arm, and mounted it said upon a mare that had been taken from her foal. Betook himself to flight. When the Persians on the left flank saw their king flee the battlefield, they quickly gave up the fight.
And when they saw their leader smite the shepherd and the sheep were scattered. So their leader flee. So shit, man, we got that out of here. Right.
They said they quickly gave up the fight and were soon routed.
Mm-hmm.
That was
end of the whole article. Alright, so now we're going to begin with the next verse. So read from the top, and then we focusing on verse 2.
Right.
But we reading from the top. Low wall, we're going to do that every show. Start from the first verse on down.
Right.
This
is First Maccabees, chapter 1, verse 1.
We broke this down in the last episode.
Right.
Go ahead.
And it happened after that Alexander, the son of Philip the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Chittim, had smitten Darius, the king of the Persians and the Medes, that he reigned in his stead the first over Greece, and made many wars, and won many.
Quote that verse and read it, because you gotta know what verse we on.
It's verse 2 now. It's First Maccabees 1, verse 2.
Yep.
And made many wars, and won many strongholds.
Stop. He made many wars, and won many strongholds. Now, this is a Wikipedia article. Give me the book of Revelation, give Revelation the 6th chapter, where it says the horse took peace from earth, the red horse. I think that's the 6th chapter.
Revelation 6.
Yeah. It speaks about the red horse, and it said that horse took away here you go. Come and see, behold, a black horse, fourth beast? This should be somewhere over here. It said they speak about the red horse took peace from the earth.
Yeah,
that
yeah,
red
yeah.
horse is talking about
Yeah, it
Esau.
is.
Read that.
Right. Revelation 6 verse 4.
Yep.
I'm sorry, 3. And when he had opened the second seal, I heard the second beast say, "Come and see."
Mm-hmm.
And there went out another horse that was red.
Yeah, another horse that was red. We're not gonna go into Genesis and then break it all down. That red horse is talking about Esau. You go back to Genesis 25th chapter, and you find out about the two brothers, the two fraternal twins that was born, is Jacob and Esau. Esau was the first son. Esau is the father of you so-called white people. Esau is Edom. That's Genesis 36:1, if I'm not mistaken. And Esau was born, he was red all over like a hairy garment. He wasn't red and hairy, he was red all over like a hairy garment, because in the ancient world they dyed garments red. So just as a red garment, just as a hairy garment was dyed red all over, he was red all over like a hairy garment. Read on.
Right. It says,
So that's talking about Esau. Read.
and power was given to him that sat thereupon.
Power was given to him that sat upon that horse. Go ahead.
To take peace from the earth.
Yeah, Esau took peace from the earth. Now, don't get it twisted. Someone say, what do you mean take peace from the earth? We always got wars going on. When Esau takes peace from the earth, when Esau comes in power, he brings more death and destruction than there ever was before, more chaos.
Right.
As we go on deeper into the show, we're going to tell you about wickedness increased in the earth.
Right.
Right? And the scripture tell you when the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. Go ahead.
It
You
says,
can find that scripture?
My phone.
All right. So,
it
I
says,
forget what
I'll
the
find
most
it.
basic scriptures is that.
It
Go ahead.
says to take peace from the earth, and that they should kill one another, and there was given unto him a great sword.
Yeah. And the sword is Esau's blessing. All right? And it said to take peace from the earth. What is that? Take peace from the earth and something else?
Yeah, it says, and was given unto him a great sword.
Yeah, give to him a great sword. That sword is a sword is a representation of a killing instrument. Okay? Today they say live by the gun, die by the gun. Yahweh Shalom himself said, if you live by the sword, die by the sword. Because a gun is a modern day sword. A sword is nothing more than a representation of a killing instrument. So Esau was given the power to kill. He was given the power to sword, the power to bring about death and destruction upon the earth.
I found it.
All right, you can get that.
Yeah, it's the book of Proverbs, chapter 29, verse 2.
I'm looking at 12. Yeah,
It
29
says,
too.
when the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice, but when the wicked beareth rule, the people mourn.
Right, when the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice, but when the wicked bear rule, the people mourn. That's an example of that. He brought a lot of mourning upon earth, so now let's go on. This Wikipedia, let's pay this title, Wars of Alexander the Great. Fucking devil. The wars of Alexander the Great were fought by King Alexander III of Macedon. That's Alexander the Great. Because it said he made many wars, right? We're going to read about them wars. First against the Achaemenid Persian Empire under Darius III, and then against local chieftains and warlords as far east as Punjab, India. Alexander was one of the most successful military commanders of all time. He was undefeated in battle by the time of his death. He had conquered most of the world known to the ancient Greeks. Although being successful as a military commander, he failed to provide any stable alternative to the Achaemenid Empire. His untimely death threw the vast territories he conquered into civil war. Alexander assumed the kingship of Macedon following the death of his father Philip II. Don't I tell you that in the first verse? Who had,
The son of Philip, the
Yep.
Macedonian. Yep.
that's Philip II of Macedon, who had unified most of the city-states of mainland Greece under Macedonian hegemony in a federation called the League of Corinth. After reconfirming Macedonian rule by quashing a rebellion of southern Greek city-states and staging a short but bloody excursion against Macedon's northern neighbors, Alexander set out against the Achaemenid Empire under its King of Kings title. Kings. The title all Achaemenid kings went by, Darius III, which he defeated and overthrew. So the King of Kings was the ancient title that the different Persian kings went by. But Yahweh Shai is the King of Kings. You see how that is? Basically, when John Revelator wrote that, John Revelator knew. You gotta remember, the prophet wasn't just some niggas, man. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't like they just didn't know shit. They knew about certain things, man. That's why when you read Acts, Paul said, "Oh, one time a guy rose up named Judas, believing that himself was somebody," because they knew about different aspects of history that took place. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
They said to Yahushua, "Will thou then restore again the kingdom to Israel?" Because they knew about the scriptures written hundreds of years ago. So he knew about the different titles of different kingdoms and so forth. That's why he said what? He said Yahweh Shai is the King of Kings, because that means he had to have been aware that King of Kings was a popular title amongst the Persians who ruled hundreds of years prior. He had to have known that. All right, Darius III, which under his King of Kings, Darius III, which he defeated and overthrew. His conquests included Anatolia, Syria, Phoenicia, Judea, Gaza, Egypt, Bactria, and Mesopotamia, and he extended the boundaries of his own empire as far as Punjab, India. We're gonna read some. Go ahead. What you got?
Right. I got something because going into the book of going to what the brother's saying with Alexander, he read earlier where it speaks about him passing.
Mm-hmm.
This is because in that guy's head, he thought he was gonna rule forever, man.
Hell yeah, you gonna get that.
This is Psalms 104:9. Thou hast set a bound that they may not pass over.
Yeah, see that? Perfect. The Most High set bounds that Esau cannot pass. He said, Alexander, you're going to die at 32 years old.
Right.
So you're going to die at 32 years old. He said bounds that he couldn't pass. Go ahead.
That they may not turn again to cover the earth.
Yeah, that you may not turn again to cover the earth. I mean, what? You may not rise up and cover the earth with your armies and take it over.
Right.
Increase your boundaries. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So instead of a boundary you couldn't pass, I mean, your kingdom is going to be as far as Punjab, India. You ain't going past them boundaries.
Right.
And the boundaries of your life is going to be 32 years old. Then you're going to drop dead.
Right.
There you go. That's simple. So I'm going to read a little bit. I'm going to, this is known as, this is the background. This is background, right? It says, Philip II was assassinated by the captain of his bodyguard, Pausanias. Philip's son and previously designated heir, Alexander, was proclaimed king by the Macedonian noble army. So Alexander was the previously designated heir to the throne of his father, Philip II of Macedon. News of Philip's death roused many states into revolt, including Thebes, Athens, Thessaly, and the Thracian tribe to the north of Macedon. When news of the revolt reached Alexander, he responded quickly. So this is the beginning of Alexander's wars. All right. Though his adversaries advised him to use diplomacy, he was told, "Oh, use diplomacy. Don't go kill him." Alexander mustered the Macedonian cavalry of 3,000 men and rode south towards Thessaly, Macedon's immediate neighbor to the south. See, now that's prophecy right there. He didn't use diplomacy because Maccabees was going to eventually be written hundreds of years later that told you he made many wars. If he would have used diplomacy, then the Mosai knew everything, man. Before the Mosai, give me the book of Sirach, the 42nd chapter, real quick. Sirach 42, I'll direct you to the verse when you get to it. The Mosai knows everything before it happens.
I got a precept on that too.
You know what I'm saying?
Let me see. Sirach 42nd chapter, right?
Yep, Sirach 42. I'll direct you to the verse when you get there. Right? Mosai knows everything before it happens. Alright, let me see that. Sirach 42 and start from verse 18.
Right.
You can just read 18 and 19.
Right. Sirach 42 and 18. He seeketh out the deep and the heart, and considereth their crafty devices.
Mm-hmm.
For the Lord knoweth all that may be known, and he
the Most High knows all that may be known. Anything that could possibly be known, the Most High knows it. Go ahead.
It says, and he beholdeth the signs of the world.
Mm-hmm.
He declareth the things that are past and for to come.
Yeah, he declares things that's past and things that's to come. So the Most High said, well, hold on, wait a minute. What the hell you think? You're gonna fight this war. You ain't using no damn diplomacy. Because in the book of Maccabees, it's going to be written hundreds of years later. I'm going to put in there that you made many wars. So I'm going to put the spirit in you to fight this war, not use diplomacy. You know, if we could finish that verse off, if that was the end of it.
Right. It says, he declareth the things that are past and for to come. He revealeth the steps of hidden things.
There you go.
That's this is second Esdras going to the same thing. Second Esdras, it's going to break itself down at the end.
Yeah. Second
Esdras 6 and 1. And he saith unto me, in the beginning, when the earth was made, before the borders of the world stood, or ever the winds blew, before it thundered and lightning, or ever the foundations of paradise were laid, before fair flowers were seen, or ever movable powers were established. That's a movable power,
yeah.
Alexander. Before the innumerable multitude of angels were gathered together, or ever the heights of the air were lifted up, before the measures of the firmament were named, or ever the chimneys of Zion were hot.
Before the heights of the air were lifted up, before there was a stratosphere, an ionosphere, exosphere, a mesosphere. before atmosphere, before all of that. Before the angels, before the numeral angels, I mean before the angel was created,
Right.
before anything was created, when it was just the Most High Himself. Go ahead.
It says, and the present years were sought out. All the inventions of them that now sin were turned, before they were sealed, that were gathered for faith for a treasure, that have gathered faith for a treasure. It says, then did I consider these things, and they were all made through me alone, and through none other. By me also shall they be ended, and by none other.
So all of this thing was considered before all of those things ever came to pass. I don't want to get too deep into it because you really want to get into this lesson. But it breaks itself down, like the brother mentioned. So I'm going to continue reading. It says, Alexander mustered the Macedonian cavalry of 3,000 men and rode south towards Thessaly, Macedon's immediate neighbor to the south. When he found the Thessalian army occupying the pass between Mount Olympus and Mount Ossa, he had made men ride through Mount Ossa, and when the Thessalians awoke, they found Alexander at their rear. The Thessalians surrendered and added their cavalry to Alexander's force as he rode down towards Peloponnese. Alexander stopped at Thermopylae, where he was recognized as the leader of the Sacred League before heading to Corinth. Athens sued for peace, and Alexander received the envoy and pardoned anyone involved in the uprising. At Corinth, he was given the title hegemon of the Greek forces against the Persians, which that means like leadership or dominance. While at Corinth, he heard news of the Thracian rising to the north. So now we understood the background of Alexander. This is the background. This is not. We didn't read the war yet. We're really reading the background of his war right now. After his father, Philip II of Macedon, was assassinated by his bodyguard Pausanias, news went about of his death. Alexander was proclaimed. He was a previously designated heir to the throne of his father, and news went out there about his death. And then revolts rose in Thebes, Athens, Thessaly, and the Thracian tribes to the north. Okay? To the north of Macedon. And Alexander responded quickly. So now we're gonna get to you got that on your phone, the Balkan campaign?
Yep.
Yeah, go ahead. I know what I read it so much. I know what to say when I read certain stuff. You know? Yeah, this is the Balkan campaign of World War II right here. I'm gonna get the other one. Don't worry about it. You know what I'm saying? So we're reading about his Balkan campaign, which his Balkan campaign consisted of many different battles. Let me just get it real quick. Here you go. Alexander's Balkan campaign. The Balkan campaign of Alexander the Great took place in 335 BC against a number of rebellious vassals of the Macedonian kingdom. So amongst the different what's the word I'm looking for? Subordinates. You can say subordinates of the Macedonian kingdom. Different. They started to rebel because after Philip II of Macedon, who was the ruler, died, they said, "Oh shit, he's dead now. We could finally get from under their clutches." Alexander successfully pacified each in turn, leaving him free to begin the long-planned invasion of Persia. Why did I say long-planned invasion of Persia? The reason why I said that was because what happened was Alexander's father had always thought about invading Persia, but he wound up dying. And it's also when you go into history, you find that Alexander, as a youth, even began to ask questions about the Persian Empire as a young kid. And he was the one who wound up taking him down. So I got this paper right here. I'm gonna go to start reading. I'm gonna read this last paragraph which I just read before. It said Alexander stopped at Thermopylae, where he was recognized as the leader of the Sacred League. You go to the Sacred League on Wikipedia. It says in the archaic period of Greek history, in a Pictione, a league of neighbors. So basically that's what it means. It means a league of neighbors. It was a different I'll read into it a little bit. It says or Amphictyonic League was an ancient religious and association of Greek tribes formed in the dim past before the rise of the Greek polis. So basically, there was different Greek tribes that was allies to Philip II and Alexander throughout time. Now I'm going to read Thrace. As a matter of fact, I mentioned the Peloponnese too. Let me read that, Peloponnese. Let's see if I got it here. Well, I'll probably put the word Peloponnese in post-production. We really got to get into that. You know, I want to kind of like breeze through it because this is kind of long. This is Thrace, the first part of the Balkan campaign. So we understand after his father died, Thrace, Thebes, Athens, and different tribes to the north of Macedon started to revolt. This happened in Thrace. Before crossing to Asia, Alexander wanted to safeguard. You could read it, because I want to get some scriptures as you read.
It says, before crossing to Asia, Alexander wanted to safeguard his northern borders, and in the spring of 335 BC, he advanced into Thrace to deal with the revolt.
Click on that Thrace, see what that says.
I
Thrace.
can't. It doesn't have a link.
You don't got a link?
No, it don't.
All right, keep going. Don't worry about it.
It says,
They can look that up.
which led by the
Illyrian?
Illyrian and the Trebia.
I know you can click on Illyrian, right?
No, you can't.
You can click on Tribali?
Tribali, yeah.
You can click on that. By the Illyrian and Tribali tribes, right?
Yeah.
Those are the different, because as I mentioned, see when we read the background, it didn't tell you who exactly who it was that rioted north of Macedon. It told you it was different tribes north of Macedon. The tribes that rioted was the Illyrian tribe and the Tribali tribe. Read.
Right. The Trebali tribe. Read that.
Yeah.
All right. This is the Trebali tribe.
All you gotta do is read that first paragraph.
Okay.
That's what you really gotta do.
The Trebali were an ancient tribe whose dominion was around the plains of the modern southern Serbia and western Bulgaria. And the Angros and the Wongos.
That was the point? It said it was
Yeah.
tribes, right?
Yeah.
That's what we had to get. Go back.
Right. Now it says
And then when you see Argiani, click on that too.
he was reinforced along the way by the Argiani.
Click on that.
It says the Argiani were a Thracian or Aenean.
You see?
Aenean, right? Yeah.
Thracian or Paeonian.
Paeonian, Thracian tribe, whose country was centered at Upper Strymon, in the present day westernmost Bulgaria.
That's the point. That's all we need to know. Only why we going to that so they can know that there was tribes. That's the only why we going to that. Because when we read the background, it tells you Thracian tribes north of Macedon. So we don't want to read this tribe and that tribe, the names of them, and they're like, who the hell are they?
Right.
That's why we going to that. Go on.
It says a Thracian tribe under the command of Alexander's friend Langarus. The Macedonian army marched up to Mount Haemus.
We're going Langarus. Yeah. That was a member of Alexander's army, if I'm not mistaken. What does it say?
It says a contemporary of Alexander, who ingratiated himself even before the death of Philip.
Ingratiated himself
even before the death of Philip II, previous king of Macedonia.
So he was allied with his father, and he was allied with Alexander. Go back.
Right. Now it says, okay, the Macedonian army marched up to Mount Haemus, and
I'm gonna read it. Yeah, come on. So I just breezed through it, because I read it a lot.
Okay.
Let me go back. Didn't click on something else.
Oh, you want a certain part?
Yeah, I got it. It says, the Macedonian army marched up to Mount Haemus, where they met a Thracian garrison manning the heights. So what happened was, as before he was crossing to Asia, Alexander wanted to safeguard his northern border, so he advanced into Thrace, which is led by the Illyrian tribes and the. So north of Macedon was in different Illyrian tribes and different Tribali tribes. That's where Alexander wanted to stop that revolt first, on his before crossing over into Asia, because he wanted to safeguard his northern border. So read on. It says he was reinforced along by the Agriani, a Thracian tribe under the command of Alexander's friend Langarus. So that was a Thracian tribe under the command of his friend Langarus. The Macedonian army marched up to Mount Haemus, because remember he was allied to Philip II of Macedon, and these were tribes that was under the rulership of Philip II of Macedon. So it says the Macedonian army marched up to Mount Haemus, where they met a Thracian garrison manning the heights. The Thracians had constructed a palisade of carts. What does a palisade mean? Let's go to that real quick. Palisade. It says a palisade is sometimes called a stake wall or a paling, is typically a fence or wall made from wooden stakes or tree trunks and used as a defensive structure or enclosure. So they was made with a palisade of carts. The palisade is like a stake wall. You ever saw like if somebody stick a stake?
Yeah.
Like even if you look into that sea, well, if you're over here, you can't get it now. But if you look over there in that water, you're gonna see like you're gonna see a palisade and the water over there. Okay? So like different stakes poking out the ground. It was made like a wall of palisades. So going back, go back. It says, which they intended to throw upon the approaching Macedonians. So when they went up there, remember he wanted to seize up his northern borders first. So when they went up there, he saw the Thracian tribes made in the heights with a palisade of carts. And he said, and it says, they intended to throw it upon the approaching Macedonians. Alexander ordered his heavy infantry to march. Give me the book of what's that? I believe it's Proverbs. We had it to the came from last week, I believe. Proverbs like 21 and 31, I believe. Where it tells you it says
20 and 31.
It says safety is of the Lord. I think it's 21 and 31. It says a horse is prepared for the day of battle. Yeah, 31. We went into the scripture last week, but that's another good scripture to bring out.
20.
Proverbs chapter 21, verse 31.
Okay. All right, got it right here.
Go ahead.
Proverbs 20, verse 31. 21, verse 31. It says, the horse is prepared against the day of battle, but safety is of the Lord.
Yeah, so they're preparing for battle. What you thinking? They're preparing for the day of battle, but safety is of the Lord. So that victory is in the Lord's hands. And after that, once you get Isaiah 55 and 11, how the Lord's word don't go out void. You can hold that down. Why we want to get to that scripture, the Lord's word go out void? Because they're attempting to kill Alexander and defeat his army. But remember, before Alexander came on the scene, the book of Daniel was already written. Alexander had to come on the scene. He had to take down Darius. If he'd have been destroyed, that would have upset prophecy.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So it says, Alexander ordered his heavy infantry to march in loose formation. You got loose formation and you got tight formation. Okay? In fact, I'm gonna go to I'll open up another tab on this. Go to another tab. Open another tab right there. Alright. Now I'm gonna type in loose formation real quick. Okay? Loose formation. I'm gonna type in Roman. Because it was a website that I had found that spoke about loose formation. See? Spirit. Because it was this is from like a game, actually, like a game. I believe it's called Rome Total War. But when I typed in loose formation, type formation, somebody actually had it written down, like what it is. And when you go to loose formation, let me get it for you real quick. This is from www.gamefacts. It says jump down. It says well, first it says somebody says loose formation or tight formation. What's the difference between these two? Aside from the obvious units coming closer together or moving apart. Obviously, if it's moving apart, it's loose formation. Close together, it's tight formation. I mean, what difference does it make battle-wise? And this is actual true response the person gives them, or true real-life response. It says, well, first off, the loose formation. It says, well, first off, the loose formation makes you harder to hit with arrows. And it's very important when being bombarded with arrows and artillery. So loose formation is very important. Why? Because you're all scattered.
Yeah.
Since you're scattered, it's harder for you to hit with arrows.
Yeah.
If you have 100 ants in one spot and you drop hot water on them, you can kill them, but they all scattered around. It's harder for you to do it. So it says it's very important when being bombarded with arrows and artillery. When going in loose formation, while attacking a melee unit, you have decreased combat abilities. So basically the point is, when you have loose formation, it makes you harder to hit with arrows and being bombarded with arrows and artillery. And if you go back to what we just read, when Alexander's Balkan campaign, it says, the Thracians constructed a palisade of carts that they intended to throw upon the approaching Macedonians, so they intended to throw stakes upon them. So Alexander ordered his heavy infantry to march in loose formation. And when the carts were thrown, to either open the ranks or lay, he said when the carts was thrown, when they threw them at them, it said he gave them the command to either open the ranks or lay flat on the ground with their shields over them. So like you ever watch a movie, you see a bunch of boulders coming downhill. Yeah. That's basically what it was. Because it tells you that he saw a Thracian garrison man in the heights. So he had to be real high up. And he said, we're going to throw this on you.
Yeah.
He had to be thrown from above. So he said, okay, when they throw them, spread out, or lay on the floor and put your shields over your head. You know what I'm saying? So you can protect yourself.
Yeah.
to either open the ranks or lay flat on the ground with their shields over them. The Macedonian archers opened fire, and when the Macedonian infantry reached the top of the mountains, they routed the Thracians. Meanwhile, the large Tribalian army, led by their king, Sarmus, so that's a king now. Remember that king, Sarmus, okay? Advanced upon the Macedonian rear. The Tribalians retreated to a gorge, and when they were thrown out by Alexander's light infantry, you look at that word light infantry, it says, or skirmishers, or soldiers whose job was to provide a skirmishing screen ahead of the main body or infantry. So you had the main body or the main infantry, and then you had the light infantry, which was the soldiers that were set forth before, or rather in front of the main infantry to harass the enemy and delay that enemy advancing. So you got the main army back here, and then you got the light infantry, the skirmishers that's in front of the main army, to basically delay the army that's coming to you from advancing, to get your true army in the back, your heavy army in the back. Okay. So it says, I'll read a little bit more about it, because we read about his different warlike tactics.
This guy, he had it.
You know what I mean?
This dude, he was good, man.
You know what I'm saying? But it says, light infantry was distinct from medium, heavy, or line infantry. Heavy infantry were dedicated primarily to fighting in tight formations that were the core of large battles. Light infantry fought in open order, often in close coordination with heavy infantry, where they could screen the heavy infantry from harassing fire. So if they try to harass them with fire, throwing different objects at them and so forth, the light infantry would be in front and harass them to prevent that. Okay? And the heavy infantry could intervene to protect the light infantry from attacks of enemy heavy infantry or cavalry. So if they try to come with heavy infantry toward the skirmishers, the light infantry, then the heavy infantry from the back will come and defend them. It says heavy infantry originally had heavier arms and more armor than light infantry, but this distinction was lost as the use of armor declined and gunpowder weapons became standardized. And that's how they did it as time went on. And they got the history of it. It goes into how the Greeks used it, which that's how the Greeks used it. But it don't tell you how the Greeks used it. It just tells you the history of it and tells you the Greeks and Romans had used it. So let's go back. Okay. We're still reading the opening. We're reading the opening paragraph of the Balkan campaign here. Okay. Continuing on, almost done with this one, and it says on the open ground, they were crushed by Alexander's infantry and cavalry, leaving behind 3,000 dead. The Macedonians marched to the Dunabi River, where they encountered the Getae tribe on the opposite shore. As Alexander's ships failed to enter the river, Alexander's army made rafts out of their leather tents. A force of 4,000 infantry and 1,500 cavalry crossed the river, to the amazement of the Getae army of 14,000 men. So when they marched to the Danube River, or Danubi River, they encountered the Getae tribe on the opposite shore, right? So they said, man, their ships failed to enter the river. So Alexander said, you know what? Army, make rafts out of your leather tents. So they made rafts, and then 4,000 infantry and 15,000 cavalry crossed over the river. And the Getae army of 14,000 men was amazed. They said the Getae army retreated after the first cavalry skirmish, leaving their town to the Macedonian army. Read First Maccabees 1 and 2 again.
Right. First Maccabees
Remember said
1, verse.
They leaving their town to the Macedonian army. Read.
First Maccabees 1 verse 2. And made many wars and won many strongholds.
That's a stronghold he just won.
Yep.
He just won a stronghold. He made many wars. We're reading about the Balkan campaign right now. He just won that. That's a stronghold he just won just now. Okay? Go ahead.
And slew the kings of the earth.
Yeah, slew the kings of the earth. But you're gonna get into them kings, those kings that were slain. Okay, you get that scripture for me?
Sure.
Which one that called? The I didn't call one? Did you read that one in Proverbs 21?
Proverbs 21, right?
Oh no, Isaiah 55:11.
55,
That's one I wanted, yeah.
It's Isaiah chapter 55 verse 11.
Almost forgot about that.
It says, so shall my word be that goeth forth out of my mouth. It shall not return unto me void.
Yeah, the Most High's word is going to return unto him void. Because what? The Most High had already written that Alexander was going to basically be that guy. Because he mentions it in Daniel the 7th chapter. And in different chapters of Daniel too. Daniel the 8th chapter, I believe, when they speak about the rough goat is the king of Greca. So it was already written. And if Alexander was actually defeated in that battle, that means the Most High prophecy would have been upset, which would make the Most High a liar. And we know according to the scripture, the Most High is what? Not a man that he should lie.
Right.
So we know that that was gonna happen. So you can cut the thing back on again. Keep cutting off when I'm pressing it. These are all my notes, by the way. Y'all wondering what I'm doing all these papers. All of our notes. Wait 1 second.
You want me to finish this?
Yeah, finish it up.
Right. It says, Isaiah 55:11. So shall my word be that goeth forth out of my mouth. It shall not return unto me void, but it shall accomplish that which I please, and it shall prosper in the thing whereto I sent it.
Right, it's going to prosper in the thing whereunto the Most High sent it. So now let me get that. I'm read a little bit more, you know. And then the scriptures you get about war, destruction, you know, things like that, you can bring it up.
Okay.
This is another part of his Balkan campaign. So we read about Thrace, some Thracian tribes to the north. Now we're reading about Illyria, right, which is another tribe. The siege of Pelium. Like I'm gonna click on the siege of Pelium. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna click on it. Okay, this is the siege of Pelium. Okay, the siege of Pelium was undertaken by Alexander the Great against the Illyrian tribes of what is modern-day Albania. It was critical for Alexander to take this pass as it provided easy access to Illyria and Macedonia, which was urgently needed in order to quell. Be careful. Which was urgently needed in order to quell the unrest in Greece at this time of Athens and Thebes. So you had to come to Illyria too. That was a very important pass of easy access to Illyria and Macedonia in order to quell, meaning to crush the different uprisings that was occurring in Greece at this time. It says this was an important point of demarcation in Alexander's early reign, as it established him among the Danubian tribes to the north as a serious monarch to be reckoned with, just as he would later establish as president for the Greek city-states under his hegemony. Taking this place allowed Alexander to march his army to southern Greece quickly, which would eventually result in the total destruction of Thebes. So I'm going to go to, that's the opening. I'm going to go to read a little bit of background of it. It says, news of the Illyrian revolt under Cletus the Dardanian. Let's go to that. Cletus was an Illyrian king of the Dardanian state, attested in 335 BC. Okay, so he was a king. Cletus was a king. So going back, I'm gonna go back. It says okay. News of the Illyrian revolt under Cletus the Dardanian and King Glaucus of the Tulanti. Remember we read about the Tulanti tribes? Or was that the Tribali? Well, we read about the Tulanti. Probably was the Tribali.
Yeah.
Okay, well, this is the Tulanti tribes. The Tulanti was the name of a cluster of Illyrian tribes. So that's what the Tulanti tribe was. It was a cluster of different tribes. Remember, these are all of them tribes, all of them people that was rioting after the death of Philip II of Macedon. So Alexander's going around to quell these different uprisings, these different revolts. And King Glaucus of the Tulanti first reached the ears of Alexander while he was campaigning on the Danube against some of the northern tribes that his father, Philip II Macedon, had previously reduced to a satisfactory level of subjection. So he reduced these different tribes to a satisfactory level of subjection. In other words, they were subjected unto him, but it was satisfactory. They wasn't subjected fully, but they was subjected to the point where Philip II Macedon was satisfied with it. It says, although not outright submission, it wasn't outright submission, but it was still submission. And this area had been far from the Greek theater of operations. It was far from Greek theater operations. So they're basically like doing their own thing. You know what I'm saying? In a way. Then cut off again. Yeah. I tap the screen when I do that?
No, before I do that.
Oh, okay. Go on. Alright. It says, as this area had been far from the Greek theater of operations, Philip had been satisfied with the level of suggestion he had reduced him to. Give me the book of Micah, the 2nd chapter. Okay. It says, like he steals lands and stuff. Something along them lines. Who's up on the top? It says, alright, I don't want to read the whole thing, but I'm going to have to read this. It says, Alexander was immediately concerned about the news of this revolt, as the settlement of Pelium itself occupied one of the most important passes between Illyria and Macedonia. As a result of this, Alexander would have a long march around the mountain range to the south. Read that scripture.
Micah 2:1. Woe unto them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds.
Go ahead.
When the morning is light, they practice it, because it is in the power of their hand.
Mm-hmm.
It says, and they covered fields and take them by violence, and houses and take them away, and they oppress a man in his house, even a man in his own heritage.
And that's the second Macedon did when he put them people into submission. He was oppressing them. Now Alexander's going to oppress them further because he got to maintain that. He has to maintain that rule. That rule has to be maintained. And whole Proverbs 21:26 on that. All right. Reading on, it says as a result of this, Alexander will have to make a long march around a mountain range to the south and then into Ilya. In addition to this, without access to this crucial pass, Alexander could be cut off from Greece, which had freshly revolted and would eventually do so again with the aid of the great king. The loss of this pass and the resulting long march would give the Greek city-states of the south ample time to prepare for Alexander's arrival while he was reducing the Illyrians. So he said, you know what? I gotta get through this pass in Ilya. It's a very important pass. It's very crucial because if I didn't get this pass, I'll be cut off from Greece, which had just revolted. And if I'm cut off from Greece, then they could possibly revolt again. And plus, if I didn't have this pass, I would have to make a long. If I didn't have this pass, that's going to result in a long march, which would give those Greek states that he was coming for more time to prepare for Alexander's arrival and be able to build their armies to defeat him. All right. And now Alexander offered aid to him by protecting his flank from Illyrian tribes while he marched towards Pelium. Languorous of the Agrinians made frequent incursions into the country of Otariate, which the Otariate, see if I can get that. Oh, those are just different communities that was controlled by the Tribali tribes. But continuing on, it says, and managed to put them on guard sufficiently to allow Alexander to march by in relative peace. Having made this march, Alexander arrived to find Cletus the Dardanian in control of Pelium and waited the arrival of King Glaucias with his reinforcements. Okay, so you got King Glaucias, the king of the Tulanti tribes, and it says when Alexander arrived, Cletus reportedly sacrificed 3 boys and 3 girls and 3 black rams before meeting the Macedonians. Let me check this guy named Cletus one more time. Cletus the Dardanian. Yeah, he was an Illyrian king. And he was a mastermind. It tells you Cletus was the mastermind behind the well-structured Illyrian revolt of 335 BC. Cletus entered into an argument with the Tulanti state, into an agreement with the Tulanti state under Glaucias as the king and the Otariate state under Plurius. So Plurius, Glaucias, and Cletus. So you had Plurius, who was the Illyrian king of the Otariate state. You had Glaucias, who was the king of the Tulanti tribes, and you had Cletus, who was the king of the Illyrian king of the Dardanian state. So these are 3 different kings, and you had the other king, Smurus. The reason why I'm mentioning that because when you read Maccabees 1 and 2, it tells you he took down many kings.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? So you gotta pushing their names out there. All right. Now I'm not gonna read the battle. I'm not gonna go into the battle and all of that. It would be good to get into that, but we wanna breeze through this. So I'm just gonna go right to the result of the battle. It tells you as a result of this siege, Alexander gained Pelium. He gained Pelium. That's a stronghold. Siege of Pelium. That's what we're reading about. And built a fresh outpost there, as the Illyrians had burnt the settlement that had previously been situated there. The Illyrians begged for terms, and Alexander was happy to accept their submission and allowed them to swear featly to him anew. Having completed his conquest, Alexander had established himself as a new monarch to be reckoned with, and was now free to march south to Boeotia, and deal with the threat from Thebes and Athens. And if you go back to King Glaucias, read about King Glaucias. Glaucias tells you, see if I can find out his death. It says the date of his death wasn't mentioned. 1 second, I just want to find out if I can find his deaths. I had it opened up, But all these different kings was eventually defeated. It was all defeated by Alexander. I'm trying to find it's kind of hard doing it on the phone. Give me 1 second. 1 second. Cletus the Dardanian. I want to find, I'm typing Plurius. trying to find out their death. All right, Plurius. It says he reigned from 337 to 335 BC. And yeah, Langarus, who was an ally to Alexander, when you read down, it tells you Langarus invaded their territory and defeated Plurius, and thus brought a setback to the Illyrian revolt from the start. So these different kings was killed, these different kings was defeated. They were slain. Either way, they was taken out of power. Now the next one we're gonna go to is you had another scripture? Oh, you had 21 and 26, right?
Yeah.
All right. You can read that one.
Proverbs 21 and 26.
Fucking Satan, man.
He
Go ahead, read.
covereth greedily all the day long, but the righteous giveth.
Yeah, he covered it greedily all the day long. All of these battles was eventually brought about the first battle that we mentioned in the first verse, which was the battle of Gaugamela. That was basically the decisive battle that really like brought an end to that empire. You know, this is the beginning of his reign, but which eventually led to that last battle, the battle of Gaugamela. Most I planned everything out from the beginning. Go ahead.
It says, he covereth greedily all the day long, but the righteous giveth and spareth not.
Yeah. All right, let me go back. 1 second. I gotta get this next battle up here real quick. All right, this is Thebes, the Battle of Thebes. I kind of want to Battle of Thebes. Same thing. The Battle of Thebes was a battle that took place between Alexander the Great and the Greek city-state of Thebes in 335 BC, immediately outside of and in the city proper. So I'll jump down a little bit because all it's going to do is mention the same thing we just read before. It was to deal with the revolts in Illyria and Thrace. It says, although Alexander did not desire to destroy Thebes, after sending several embassies requesting their submission and what he considered merciful terms, he eventually decided to destroy the city as an example to others. You know? Let's see. I don't want to read the background. The background is kind of long. I'm just gonna go to the result. We can go to read about the result. Okay, because it's kind of. I'll read a little bit of the background, a little bit. These have been under Macedonian occupation since the Battle of Chaeronea, which have resulted in defeat and disposition of Thebes as the preeminent city-state of southern Greece. The Thebans have reluctantly accepted this, and their compulsory membership into the League of Corinth, which had previously been by Philip II of Macedon, Alexander's father. If you got anything, let me know. If you hold any scripture. It says result. I'm just gonna go right to the result. It says back. Shall we? It's a lot. It's a lot here. It's a lot here, but I don't want to read the whole thing. I'll go to the last paragraph of where it says battle and siege. It says once the siege began, the Thebans fought desperately.